This is Abby from the Tobacco Prevention Control Program, and we are kicking off our February webinar, our partnership with TNFD for these programming activities. This month, we are delighted to introduce Kate Gartner from Bismarck Public Schools. She is a school nurse within the school system and a TTS. And so we'll be having her share her work with the students in the school district. And then after she's done, I'm pleased to introduce Alexis Raymond from Bismarck Burleigh Public Health. And she will kind of discuss their partnership that they developed with Bismarck Public Schools to get this program going. So without further ado, I will mention you, if you have questions, you can pop them in the chat. I will moderate those for Kate as she's speaking, but I will turn it over to Kate. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for having me. I am excited to share this presentation with everyone. We did do this presentation at a local conference recently, and a lot of good feedback and questions from it. So I'm excited to share again. So I will get us going. Let me just get my screen shared here. And don't judge me by my busy desktop there. Where is my mouse? Oh my gosh. Hold tight, hold tight. Let me get, my mouse is only going on one screen for some reason. Technology is killing me today. Going tight. I don't know what the deal is. I have a dual screen and it's only, there we go, there we go, there we go. Okay, now we are in business. Whoop. Let me go back. And okay, sorry about that. Here we go. Okay, can you see it?
We can see your slides, yes.
Okay, good grief. Okay, so the title that I chose was Fighting an Uphill Battle, because treating students that are under the age of 18 can be a difficult thing, and we're going to talk about what makes it difficult today. Again, I'm Kate Gartner. I am a certified school nurse and school nurse coordinator here in Bismarck Public Schools. I'm also our special education school nurse and a tobacco treatment specialist. We're going to talk about the current state of nicotine addiction in our schools, recognize access to commercial tobacco for teens in our community, identify barriers to tobacco cessation programs for teens, and then the nicotine dependence treatment services offered here at Bismarck Public Schools. All right. So this just shows from 2019 the statistics that show high school cigarette use compared to adults, and you'll see with actual cigarettes, it's lower than adults in both North Dakota and nationally. But then when you look at other tobacco use, e-cigarettes compared to adults is just phenomenally high. 33.1% of high school students are using e-cigarettes, and this is North Dakota data, and compared to only 6.4% of adults. Smokeless tobacco, that doesn't surprise me that it's that low. Cigars is a little surprising, but not really. But the e-cigarette use is quite high. The T21 law, where you must be 21 to purchase tobacco federally, went into effect at the end of 2019. And so not sure that if we did this survey today, how much different it would be compared to adults, because where there's a will, there's a way. This QR code that I just threw up here takes you to the Truth Initiative, which is where I found these graphics. It is also a great tool for tobacco cessation. So the 2021 Youth Risk Behavior Survey shows that 22.3% of high schoolers have tried cigarette smoking. 5.9 currently smoke cigarettes. 30.9 of those have tried to quit. In the Bismarck-Mandan-Minot region, the center region of the state here, 27.3 have tried smoking, 9.1 currently smoke, and 29.7 have tried to quit. So a little bit higher right here in middle North Dakota than the national average. In the middle schools, 11.6% of middle schoolers have tried cigarettes, which is the same percentage as the Bismarck-Mandan-Minot area. 3.6% currently smoke in North Dakota, with 2.6% being in Bismarck-Mandan and Minot. And as far as the electronic vapor products, 38.6% of North Dakota high schoolers have tried, but in the Bismarck-Mandan region, Bismarck-Mandan-Minot region, 45.8% of high schoolers have used e-vapor products. 21.2% of North Dakota high schoolers currently use them. And again, in the Minot, Bismarck, Mandan area, 28.6% currently use. So we do have a higher concentration of kids using these products right here in middle North Dakota. In the middle schools, it's pretty much the same statewide versus Bismarck-Mandan-Minot. It's about 17.4, 17%, 8.2% currently used, and 7.7 here in Bismarck-Mandan-Minot in the middle schools. Still higher than it should be. These are the QR codes for those high school and middle school reports. If you have any interest in checking those out for yourself, have at it. Just scan that with your phone and you'll be able to pull up those reports. So when we can look at trends, because we always want to look at trends, like what's happening from last year or the last time that this survey was done. This survey is done every 2 years. So comparing the 2021 Youth Risk Behavior Survey to the 2019 results, statewide current high school cigarette use has actually stayed about the same, where those who are trying it has decreased. And overall, electronic delivery systems have also decreased. But from what this survey says, I take it with a grain of salt. It's given out to there's only 2,000 high schoolers that took it, or 2,000 students that are reported on there, which we know that there's a lot more than 2,000 students in our high school students in our state. So it's not the highest sample size. It's self-reported, of course. So whether or not they're honest, we don't know. And then also 2021 was coming right off COVID, and there was some kids that weren't even in school. They were still staying at home doing virtual learning. I don't know that it's the truest survey that we've had. And honestly, what we're seeing in the school makes me think it's all fake news. It really doesn't feel like things have decreased. It just seems like it's picking up. And so we'll go into what we're seeing right now. So what we are seeing in our schools, just in the Bismarck Public School District, in 2022-23 school year, we had 111 students referred or sought out treatment services for nicotine. This year, just in the first quarter of the year, we already had 32 students that were either referred or sought out treatment. And so that was kind of on pace to be higher than what we'd seen in the past. We see students of all ages. We've actually had kids as young as kindergarten, and then again in first grade, caught vaping on the playground. One of the kids had taken a parent's vape and was sharing it on the playground. And it was really sad when we asked them, what can you tell me about this vape? What do you know about vapes? And they said, well, if you want to smoke marijuana, you do it through a vape because then it doesn't smell. And it was like, oh my God, you are a first grader. Why should you even know this? I know how you know it because you're living it, but you shouldn't know this in first grade. It was very mind-blowing. What we are seeing right now, unfortunately, more and more this year, is students utilizing THC. THC vapes are actually really outpacing our nicotine vapes, and some are using both. When we do an intake on our program, we ask about other substances, and a lot of the students are using both if they're using nicotine. Unfortunately, those of us that are TTS, we can work with nicotine dependence, not THC. And so we've attended trainings on cannabis use, and we can be a resource for kids. We can give kids resources, but we are not treatment specialists for THC, unfortunately, because that is what we're seeing mostly now in the schools. The QR code on the bottom of this slide is an article from Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center on a study that showed the differences between CBD versus nicotine and does touch on THC. Little spoiler alert, THC is much more, and CBD are much more dangerous to the lungs and overall immune health than nicotine. So the characteristics of the students that we work with are very common. They all have kind of a common theme. And this slide just kind of shows what is most common. Many if almost all of them have parents that either smoke or vape. When we ask them, does anybody else in the home use tobacco products? Almost all of them say yes. Nearly all of them also report anxiety or depression. Many of them also report past trauma history, and we see it across all socioeconomic areas. So there isn't like a single demographic in Bismarck that's highest use. It's across all of them. So when we look at the T21 laws, they went into effect in December 2019. So how are these teens getting their products? They shouldn't be able to walk into a store and buy it. I'm not going to say they can't. They shouldn't be able to. So we always ask, we tell the kids, you know what, nothing you tell me today is going to get you into more trouble. So I want you to be honest, because if you're not honest, I can't help you. And so we do tell them that, and we ask them, where do you get your products? Do you just find them? Do you steal them? How do you get your products? You would be amazed at what we are told. Some steal them from their parents or their older siblings. One middle schooler, when I asked him, he said, "You're not going to tell my grandma, right?" I said, "Yeah, I'm not going to tell your grandma. It stays with you and me." And he said, "Well, I get them from homeless people." And my jaw dropped. I know it did, because he's like, "I don't take theirs. I don't use theirs. I give them money to go buy it for me at Moe's." And I said, "Okay, you realize how unsafe this is. The incidence of mental health concerns with our homeless population, and you're offering to give them money to go and get you your tobacco products." And he's, "Yeah, I just let them keep the change," and they're fine with it. Very disturbing to me, that he's putting his safety at risk that way. Not that all homeless people are violent, but there is that chance. And I asked, "Well, where do you get your money?" Because he's talking about $30 a pop. I said, "You're too young to have a job. Where do you get your money?" And he said, "I just sell things. I sold my Xbox to a friend. I got money for that. I sold this to another friend, or that to another friend. That's how I get my money. I decide I don't need stuff." I said, "You decided that your Xbox wasn't was less important than your nicotine. Yep. Others will say that they are just given vapes by other people. Many have buyers, and I've had several students who are employed at convenience stores, which makes me wonder that maybe they're purchasing their own product and fudging their ID, their date of birth, when they have to enter it into the till, or the computer system. Till, I'm so old. Anyway, to make a purchase. Some share them. Some will, one friend will buy it this month or this week, and also they buy them online, Amazon. They just enter in a fake date of birth and they can buy them. There's vape shops that have been caught multiple times selling to minors. The bottom line is, if they want it, they'll get it one way or another. I was visiting with one student about his cigarette smoking. I asked where he gets his cigarettes, and he told me that he finds them on the ground and relights them and smokes what's left of them. Which, again, I'm sure my jaw dropped to the ground, because this kid also, when we were talking about the effects on the body, he was so worried about his liver. And so when he told me this, I was like, dude, you can get hepatitis A from smoking other people's cigarettes. And that's going to wreck your liver just as fast, if not faster, than nicotine. So yeah, the public health implications are there too. So what barriers are there to students getting help? So kids are really busy. Time is a huge barrier. My kids, when they were in high school, seemed way busier than I ever was in high school. We have athletes that want to quit because they know it's going to get them in trouble on their team. But by the time they get done with school and practice and games and whatever, they don't have time to get somewhere for counseling. They can't use ND quits because they're not 18. And so how are they going, what is out there for them to quit? Others have after school jobs. Many of the students are too young to drive. Or maybe their parents don't know that they're vaping or smoking, and so they don't want to ask for a ride because they know they'll get in trouble. And so parental consent, some really fear the repercussions from parents by getting parental consent to attend treatment sessions outside of the school. So we took all these barriers and we eliminated them. We now have our tobacco and vaping cessation support within Bismarck Public Schools. There are 4 of us. Actually, I just hired one of ours back. We have 5 of us now that are all TSS or TTS. 3 of these nurses are located in the secondary buildings. I'm located at our central administration building, and I can go wherever I need to go. And so we offer tobacco cessation counseling right in the school when it works for the student. If they haven't told their parents, we help them get prepared to talk to their parents, because the parents need to be involved. Although at the age of 14, if they want help with substance use, they don't have to have parental consent. So we do take that into account also, but we do want parents involved because support at home is going to be key. So we work with them to figure out how to talk to parents. We use multiple modalities for success. We use in-person, online, text. Students meet with us a minimum of 5 visits. If they get referred to us by an SRO, a school resource officer, or our administrators, because they're caught with a vape on campus, they can avoid a citation if they attend all 5 sessions. That's only offered on the first offense. If they get caught again, they're going to get cited. The 5 sessions include the effects of nicotine on the teen brain, addiction 101, dangers of vaping in the entire body, tools for quitting. We really assess kids for what motivates them. Some are really motivated by money. And so we'll add up You know, how often do you purchase? Oh, once a week? Okay, that's 52 weeks in a year. How much do you spend when you do that? 25 bucks? Okay, 25 times 52. And we do the math for them and show them how much money they have burned, essentially. And for some kids, that's a real eye-opener. When kids are caught with a vape in school, the first thing we hear is, that's not mine. Wasn't mine. And the story that we always hear is that their friend threw it at them and they caught it. And the second that they caught it and it was in their hand was when the administrator walked by and saw them with it. That's always the story, every single time. Thankfully, we do have nicotine tests to test for nicotine. So if they're adamant that it's not theirs, they do not vape, they never have, we can do a test with them to see. If they would do the test and the test is negative, then okay, maybe you did just catch it from your friend. And so our public health unit has worked really closely with us to keep us supplied in those tests. Often when parents are called with those that are caught, the parents will deny that their kids would ever vape. And so we'll offer to do the nicotine test with their student and get them out of trouble. And often the parents will refuse to allow us to test their kid, which it would get them out of trouble. So I don't quite understand it other than the parent truly knows that they are vaping or smoking. One thing we've learned is if you don't think your kid would ever vape or smoke, they've probably at least tried it. Because we hear that all the time, my kid would never. So what is our success rate? The 2022-23 school year, we saw about a 20% success rate. Now, we don't know if these kids who did quit have continued to not use, but the seeds have been planted, education's been provided. Hopefully they felt so much better after quitting that they continued to not use. So tobacco companies, vape companies have targeted teens. We know this. They can deny it, whatever, but they definitely have targeted teens. First, the flavors, which we've tried to ban, but they can still get them. But this concealment, if the electronic delivery systems were made just to help people quit smoking, we wouldn't have 80 people starting for every one person that quit. Definitely not the intention there. The easy concealment, vapes are made to look like common household items, highlighters, inhalers, pens. They're so easy to hide. What teacher is not going to let a student use their inhaler in class if they feel the need to use their inhaler? Of course, they're going to let them use their inhaler. They need to breathe. So easy to conceal. If they were truly to help people quit smoking, they wouldn't need to be easy to conceal. So let's talk about NRT, nicotine replacement therapy. So despite really being marketed to teens, teens have very limited options to help them quit. One of the toughest aspects of treating teens is the fact that nicotine replacement therapy is only approved for 18 and over. We do work with parents to reach out to their primary care provider about recommendations for either NRT or pharmacologic treatment, like Wellbutrin, Chantix, whatever, because the level of addiction in these young plastic brains is so high and it's tough to break. So those kids with really strong addictions, the kids that roll over in bed and have to take a puff before they can even put their feet on the floor, we try to get them extra help with NRT at a minimum. But that has to, we have the parent work with their healthcare provider on that since they're under 18. So as far as advice for parents, Know your kids, know what they carry in their backpack, know the friends they hang out with, talk to them, let them know what your expectations are in your home. Let them know what is acceptable and what is not, what will be tolerated, what will not. Do not supply for them or anyone else's kids. And if for students, don't start. One puff and you can be hooked because of that high nicotine content. Most kids don't think they're addicted until we really start chatting about their usage and teaching them about signs of addiction. And then they realize that, yeah, I guess I am addicted. So that's really all I've got. If there's questions for us, I'm more than happy to answer.
I don't see anything in the chat right now, so thank you, Kate. Why don't we go ahead and have Alexis come on and she can share about your partnership, and I'll watch the chat to see if anything comes through.
All right. Thank you, Abby. Thank you so much, Kate. So I think the main thing that Kate mentioned also is going to be the stealth vaping. So that's when teenagers or whoever's using it, they're hiding their vapes in their jacket pockets, or there's certain clothing items where they try to make it a bit sneakier for students to be able to conceal their vapes. So even as she had in one of the hoodies with one of the little strings, like if students are putting that in their mouth, ways that they're trying to conceal it if they're in class or anything like that. But one thing I do want to mention is that, so Bismarck Burleigh Public Health, we've been working with the SROs, with the nurses, and the main thing that we're trying to do is really bring everyone around the table, because vaping is a big issue. And so the main thing that we're seeing is that partnerships are effective. And so even as we worked with Kate and also with the school nurses, the SROs, the main thing that we do, we meet with them in July and August. And so we kind of basically will sit down and talk with them to see what are the things that they're seeing in the school systems, what things, how should we cater, or how should we tailor our educational materials to meet the students' needs. So in the beginning, Bismarck Burleigh Health, we were the one that we were providing treatment services for the students, but then we're noticing if students are coming, they have to leave school, or if they have to go right after classes and stuff just to get there for their treatment services. So we figured it was easier for the school nurses to get trained, and that was through North Dakota's Health and Human Services, and also that was offered through the Mayo Clinic Tobacco Treatment Specialist Training. And yeah, even as Kate mentioned about the cotinine test, that's used to assist with verifying if a student is nicotine free. So at the same time, we were just noticing in the beginning, we didn't have the manpower to help all 4,000 students in the area high schools if they were coming for treatment or if they needed services. And so the main thing is that having that partnership with Kate, with the SROs, we can kind of just, get our ears to the ground to see what are other things we need to be providing. And also just to give a background. So I go into the school systems and I provide the tobacco prevention presentations. And so even hearing what the students are saying after the presentations, if they're, some of them, they do come up and they ask, hey, if I know someone that's struggling, or even some of them have admitted themselves that, hey, I was dealing with this addiction. And so I'm seeing from elementary, middle, and high school different students where they'll come up after a presentation and they will explain, hey, I know that this isn't good for me. Do you have services that you can offer to me? And so that's the great thing about having Kate and the SROs, so that we're able to bring these things to them because they know exactly what's happening within the school systems.
Super. Thank you so much for sharing that from you both. Any questions? Feel free to raise your hand, come off mute, or pop anything in the chat. I do see one from Chelsea. Could you go further into how you address the elementary children we're seeing younger grades using?
It's tough. Those really young, really plastic brains that just absorb everything, it's tough. We work with the parents, we sometimes will bring in the police youth bureau just to, I don't want to say scare them a little bit, but just as another resource. But it's tough. They're sneaky little kids too sometimes. So we bring it down to their level. We meet them where they're at, and get the parents very involved. And sometimes the parents are shocked that they have been using. It's their own product most of the time because they can't get it anywhere other than mom's purse or whatever. And so yeah, we meet them where they're at and do what we can with the education.
Great. Another question, are you seeing kids using the nicotine pouches like Zyn?
Yes. Yep. I see the curriculum question. We have three of the nurses have gone through the Mayo Clinic TTS curriculum. I went through the University of Kentucky. So the curriculums are a teeny bit different, but overall it's the same material. And we kind of tailor it to the student as well. You know, it definitely has to be individualized, but we have the curriculum from Mayo and from University of Kentucky, and we meld them together. We also almost always with the first visit when it's just our intake, we also have them sign up with either My Life, My Quit, or Vape Free ND, just so that they've got that extra support via text. So when they're home on a weekend or whatever and doing an activity that they normally would grab their vape, they can shoot a text to them and get some help. And then the parent permission before doing the nicotine testing on the kids. If they're 14 or over and they want to be tested to get out of trouble, we do not need to get parent consent. Under 14, yes, we do get parent consent, but 14 and over, if they want substance use help, by North Dakota Century Code, they can get help.
Do you see the one that just popped in? Chris is going to be doing a presentation soon, presenting to teachers. Any advice?
Alexis can probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alexis?
Yeah, I'll take that one. Great question, Chris. So I think the main thing that you want to inform teachers of is going to be, if they're familiar, get them familiar with the devices. So one thing that I'm noticing, even on the tobacco coordinators that I work with within each of the schools, so we're trying to get more of them involved as well, but I did have one of the tobacco coordinators explain to me that she was not familiar with different devices that are out there. And so sometimes it's important that teachers are familiar with the material so they actually know how to spot if something's a vape, especially if you're trying to see what's the in-between. So one of the main things, even when I saw it in Kate's presentation, is going to be the highlighter vape. And so that is a big one that's occurring right now. And even we're trying to make sure that we're getting different resources to explain these things to the teachers. The SROs are very familiar with these things because if they're confiscating them. But what I found very interesting is that some of these vape products are hard to find. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to collect these things to break down the information. So I think that it would be awesome to have a resource sheet for the teachers so that you can explain to them, hey, so if you see this in the classroom, so just so that they're clued in to know what to look for. All right, I'm just seeing here. Yeah, of course. All righty, let me grab your email.
I just decided I'd come off mute just to visit for just a little bit. Okay, so going into the classroom, we plan to do that, talk to the students, and then at the end of the school day, we go in and talk to the teachers. My question is, do some of our tobacco money cover, since I'm new at this, to go buy some of these devices to show the teachers? I mean, obviously not the students, but the adults. What are your thoughts on that?
We have allowed grant funding to purchase for educational, like you said, for adult use only. With that in mind, we do have the caveat that, when you're spending grant funding, you're supporting the tobacco industry by purchasing those products. So,
I totally understand that.
yeah, it's a tricky situation. The education needs to occur, so parents, teachers, adults are aware of what they're watching for, those types of things. We do recommend, it is on your own liability, because you can get nicotine poisoning from the contact with them. They can, explode, those types of things, catch on fire. The tobacco program does not assume liability for the storage of those objects. Another really good resource is to use the confiscated products from your teachers and schools. So then you have the products that are truly being used in the classrooms and in the schools, rather than just purchasing, the fun niche ones off the internet, which are good examples. But if they're not being used in your area, then they might not be as applicable. So by using the confiscated devices, double bag them, use gloves, protect yourself and those around you for those demonstrations. And then you're not giving the tobacco industry more money too, would be my only recommendation with that. Does that make sense?
I like the idea of reaching out to schools and see what they have for confiscated items to see if we can use them for educational purposes. I do like that idea.
Yeah.
Another question I have, I noticed in the Bismarck school pamphlet, they use cessation. Now, one of the tobacco forums that I went to asked us to go away from using cessation. Our pamphlets say cessation as well. So, I mean, how important is that, and do we need to change our information?
I just heard of the change just when I was putting together this slideshow, actually. And so I haven't been in a big rush to change the pamphlet yet, but when I do update it, I'll probably change it to treatment instead of cessation.
Okay, that was my question, because I don't know how much, if I should be pulling these items or what. So that was my question. So thank you for answering.
Chris, I would just say, as the tobacco program, we are trying to encourage that language because we do find it is a little bit more receptive from those people who are seeking treatment, and just emphasizing that, it's an ongoing process. It's not about, a quit. And if you fail at that, then, that's not the last step. So it's a gradual change. We're not mandating, all equipment or presentations or anything like that be changed immediately. But as you're doing those updates, it's something to consider when you're changing that language.
And I should mention too, I don't know if I've mentioned this, but our kids attend 5 sessions with us minimum. If they need continuing help throughout the entire year, we will meet with them. We are their support for this process. And we set a quit date with them and we shoot for that quit date. And sometimes they'll hit that quit date, but then they continue to need the support after. And some kids, especially the kids with trauma, we're just a safe landing place for them. And so it is what it is. I'd rather be that than have them turn back to nicotine.
I should say that we're going to be doing one of these soon. I am trying to work with Heather and Andrew both to find a date for them to come out and help with presenting. Just because I've never done it before and to help me feel more comfortable. So, but between all our schedules, it's not working out real good. So I appreciate all the tips today, and thank you, Kate, for presenting, and Alexis for telling information too.
Don't see any more questions, I think, that we haven't gotten to in the chat. Oh, Chelsea has her hand up. Go ahead, Chelsea.
Can you just kind of explain the process further, Kate? Like, so if a high school student gets caught with a vape, then what happens from there? You said they do 5 sessions minimum. Sometimes you get a SRO involved. Can you just kind of explain the process?
Yeah, so usually it's either admin or maybe the SRO, but usually admin catches them with a vape at school, or a teacher. either way, admin kind of starts the process. They'll visit with the SRO. They'll shoot an email or a text to the nurse in the building and say, hey, we've got this kid who they're on in-school suspension today. The sun is hitting the wrong angle coming through my window here. They're on in-school suspension today. You can meet with them today if possible, to start the process for the tobacco cessation or tobacco treatment. And so we'll meet. It's the perfect time to meet with them, kind of, because they're in school suspension. They've got nothing better to do. But at the same time, it's also kind of the worst time because they're just pissed off that they got caught. And so they're not very receptive to things. But we meet with them, we start the intake. We really don't get into the meat of anything in that first visit. It's more just the intake, trying to find out where they're at in life and what's going on. And then we schedule the next sessions out. And we schedule it during their free time, maybe their lunch. They can bring lunch down to the nurse's office. Or if they have a study hall or a class that they don't necessarily have to attend, they can go get the material and then come down and meet with us. Some kids, it's 15 minutes, which because they have no interest in doing it. So we present the learning, the information, answer any questions, and they go on their way. Other kids, we can sit with them for an hour and it's therapeutic for them and educational. So it is just very, very individualized after that intake. And then if they don't follow through, if they've been caught and they don't follow through with all 5 sessions, we let the SROs know. And they take it from there. And if that means issuing a citation or meeting with the student, that's their part.
Thank you.
I like how you have that balance between you being the resource to address that and having that safe space and separating that from the punitive side. I really like that. Any other questions or comments? Super. Well, thank you so much to Kate and to Alexis for sharing their program and all the wonderful work that's being done in the Bismarck Public Schools. Really appreciate your time today. I would just mention we won't be having a March webinar. We do have our quarterly partner meeting in person March 19th and 20th at the Heritage Center. So that'll be coming up for our educational offerings that month. And we will resume our webinar series in April. You can save the date for the 25th, and I will be sending out an email here soon. We will have another super webinar, some great guest speakers, and it will be covering traditional tobacco. So we have some of our native speakers from the Turtle Mountain Reservation to share on that. So look forward for that notice. And thank you all for your time today. Appreciate it.